1 month ago, I wrote superpower and personality descriptions for 5 different characters on a team of superheroes, and I asked that any of my subscribers who wanted to participate take one of those descriptions and design what they think that character should look like based on the description. Now, in today's episode, I'm going to take my favorite design for each character and redraw that design in my art style, while telling a story about these 5 superheroes that I wrote specifically for this episode. And of course, I worked in some little tidbits based off the extra descriptions that people gave with their character submissions. Also, before I start drawing the design for each character, I'm going to show a bunch of the other submissions for that specific character. Thank you to everyone who submitted. I hope you all like the story, and I hope everyone hits the like button if they feel like it, because it helps with algorithm stuff. But without further ado, let's get into the very first ever story of the SCI-5, named by GeoCat 927 in a community post, although I did change the spelling a little bit. Sorry about that, but thank you for the name, GeoCat. Alright, let's go. Listening to Soundstrike and Jumpkick argue was far more stressful than usual for Calamity. He never liked hearing any members of the SCI-5 arguing with each other, but it was particularly uncomfortable that day because he had no idea whose side he should be on. "What she is doing is appalling," Jumpkick said, "and I don't understand why we're even having this conversation." "Oh, come on," Soundstrike chuckled. "Don't be such a buzzkill, Kick. You can't tell me you don't want to see the creatures she's got in that place. She has a dragon! A real-life dragon! I'm getting a ticket as soon as they're available." "It's totally immoral, Strike. Not only should those creatures be free, the fact that she's taken them from other dimensions just adds a whole other layer of foul play to this. We have to stop her." Strike rolled her eyes and looked over at Zeff, munching down on a comically large burrito in the corner. "Back me up, Zeff. Tell Kick she's being stupid. Do they have stuff like this on your planet?" The team's resident tech genius lizard man stopped mid-bite and nervously glanced between his 2 teammates. He swallowed and said, "I mean, look, I think kidnapping creatures from other worlds to lock away in a zoo for human entertainment is a not-so-nice thing to do." "See?" Kick yelled. Zeff cringed as he saw the disappointment on Soundstrike's face. "But," Zeff added, never wanting to fully disagree with Soundstrike, "I must admit it's a bit hypocritical for us to stop this when it's hardly any different from any other zoo on your planet. Humans have already made it socially acceptable to be cruel to this planet's other residents, so this hardly seems out of character. No offense." The comment made neither Strike nor Kick happy. Calamity looked over at the team's noble leader Swipe, sitting in the corner holding an open book. The argument raged on, and since it had started, Calamity noticed that Swipe hadn't turned a page. She wasn't really reading after all. Swipe glanced up at Calamity. In sign language, Calamity asked, "What do we do?" At that, Swipe closed her book and stood up. "Look, everyone, I think in the very least we need more information before we can make a decision on how to act." She looked over at Jumpkick. "We do need to go on a covert mission into Dr. Universe's base to figure out what exactly she's up to behind the scenes." Swipe then walked over to Soundstrike, who was visibly angry to be overruled. Swipe set a hand on Soundstrike's shoulder. "Strike, I would like for you to come with us so you can help us make a final decision on what we do, but I won't force you to go on a mission you don't believe in. Your involvement is up to you, and I will respect your decision." Soundstrike looked at Swipe's calm, reassuring expression. Words like that and a look like that were all it really ever took for Swipe to convince anyone on the team of anything. The SCI-5 suited up, and as they did, Calamity thought a frequent thought of his. How does Swipe so easily make the right decisions? As the Team Hypersub fired into international waters, the team all rebriefed on the little information they had. Dr. Eunice Versailles, publicly known as Dr. Universe, had invented, but kept very private, technology to allow transport between other dimensions. Publicly, all she'd admitted to doing was going to other universes, absent of sentient life, to take creatures from those worlds for her otherworldly zoo that she was building. Calamity was eager to arrive at the subterranean base, as he wanted to know how to feel about the whole situation. He thought Kick and Swipe both made good points. He'd get answers pretty soon, but other problems would then arise. "Approaching base," Swipe said. Going stealth, we'll dock on the northwest section. From scans of the base, Zeff has determined that corridor to be a storage unit. We can branch out from there. Once inside, we communicate only with our holocams and sign language. Soundstrike and Jumpkick, have you two brushed up on your basics? Jumpkick nodded and Soundstrike snarled. Yes, obviously, I'm not totally irresponsible. Swipe turned and looked Soundstrike in the eyes. Nobody thinks you're irresponsible, Strike, I just wanted to make sure. Swipe smiled compassionately, and they looked away, giving a slight, unconvinced nod. Calamity actually did think Soundstrike was a bit irresponsible at times, but didn't feel the need to chime in. The ship zipped up alongside a massive 9-story underwater lab. The ship's docking bay pressed up and locked to the wall. With tech, thanks to Zeff's genius alien brain, the ship door phased the matter of the lab wall so the team could all step straight through from their ship into the base. All 5 got inside. Zeff tapped a little controller and the wall phased back to normal. The room was indeed a storage unit, full of unusual technology and machinery. Much of it, to the team's immediate suspicion, was weaponry. Swipe turned to sign a message to the team when the doors of the room suddenly blew open, smashing down shelves. The team all ducked behind cover, and before even seeing the cause, they recognized an unfortunately familiar set of voices. Careful, Crash, can't you ever do anything gently? There's explosive stuff in here, and if that thing was in here, we would have spooked it.
Oh, sorry, Burn. Doesn't look like it's in here, though.
We ain't even looked around yet. How lazy are ya? Crash and Burn were villains for hire that the team had gone up against many times before. Their being there all but confirmed Universe's company to be up to something rotten. Calamity immediately looked around for Soundstrike. He knew the only thing Strike hated more than being wrong was Crash and Burn. The next thing the whole team heard was a concussive impact emanating from Strike's fist against Crash's face.
What are you punks doing here?
Crash bellowed as another fist hammered against his face. What's that, blockhead? Soundstrike yelled over their music, blaring in their headphones, fueling their sound-based powers. You're gonna have to speak up, or, feel free not to. They slammed another blow into his stomach. Despite being a healer, Soundstrike rarely missed an opportunity for a good fight, even if it was at the expense of their team at times. Burn spat a cannon of fire from her mouth, but Zeff fired one of his grapple hooks at her head and knocked her off aim to protect Strike. Soundstrike smirked. Thanks, Spaceman, I owe you one. It was hard to tell through Zeff's scaly skin, but he was blushing pretty hard. At that point, the rest of the team was ready to charge in. Kick and Calamity were both livid at Strike for their brash decision-making, but Swipe remained composed as ever. Everyone listen, covert obviously isn't going to work now. Jumpkick, you're our fastest, so go do a sweep of the facility and report back. Calamity, you're our best bet against Crash, so help Zeff and Strike. I'm going to distract whatever guards they've got down here, but heads on a swivel, everyone. Crash and Burn were looking for something, and it's probably a fair guess to assume that whatever it is dangerous. Kick nodded and sprinted from the room, giving Soundstrike a foul look as she left. When she got into the hall, Jumpkick felt like she was in a maze of white and chrome. She paused for 12 seconds to charge up an energy bolt, then held it as she ran through the facility. For the first minute, she saw nothing besides a few scattering doctors who seemed too distracted with other work to notice her. But soon, she leapt into a long hallway, at the other end of which was a wave of a dozen guards carrying various guns and glowing blades. As they started to fire, Jumpkick hurled her bolt at them. It missed them all and struck the wall directly behind them. Before any of their blasts could hit her, though, Kick activated her powers and teleported right to the spot where her bolt had struck. Before the guards even realized where she was, she double jump kicked the back two, slamming them into opposite walls. In a confused panic, they fired and swung their weapons, but they were nothing compared to the combatants Jumpkick had faced before. In no more than 20 hits from her feet and billy club, she took down the entire squad, then kicked in the nearest door, opening to a football field-sized room with 6 cages. Most of them contained the incredible creatures Dr. Universe had advertised having in her zoo. The 6th cage, however, was torn open from the inside. Jumpkick relayed her new info over the comms. The cages are in the same room as the dimensional portal, but it's closed. We'll need Zeff to figure out how it opens. But I found some research notes and it looks like it only opens to one other dimension. The creatures must have all come from the same place. Plus, it looks like they have been lying about that world. There are definitely sentient beings living there. Who knows what else they could have lied about? All that information combined was enough for Swipe to make her call. Over the comms while fighting off a group of guards, Swipe said, "Alright everyone, Dr. Universe is clearly not to be trusted with the tech she's built. We're catching that escaped creature and sending it back with all the others through the portal. Then, we're destroying it. Zeff, how are you all handling Crash and Burn?"
As well as usual, I guess.
Crash was landing some heavy hits against Calamity, but he could take them. After a few blows, Calamity struck a palm into Crash's stomach. Calamity's powers activated, and Crash rocketed backwards, blasting through a steel wall and rolling to the ground. But as he did that, Burn spat a beam of fire and scorched Calamity's arm. He yelped and rolled back, trying to pat out the flame that had clearly burned through his suit and injured his arm. Zeff looked to Soundstrike, who was still hammering fists against Crash, using the sound gauntlets Zeff had built for them. As Zeff grappled with Burn, trying to keep her head turned away from his teammates, Zeff tried to get Strike's attention.
Soundstrike! Soundstrike!
But Strike couldn't hear him over their music.
Strike, come on, please!
Still nothing. Burn thrust backwards and hurled Zeff over her shoulders, slamming him to the ground. He swiveled around and jabbed his claws into her side, shooting a current of bioelectricity straight into her. With his foe stunned, Zeff ran towards Crash. He fired a grapple hook at him and through it sent a massive surge of electricity, but it didn't do much to the big guy. Zeff dodged a swing as he yelled straight in Strike's face.
Hey!
Strike flicked off their headphones, surprised by the frustrated look Zeff was giving them.
Strike, come on, you gotta be more of a team player here. You're our only healer and Calamity needs healing.
He hated being confrontational to Strike, but he felt it needed to be said. Strike looked over at Calamity, still patting out his arm. Strike stammered, I'm sorry. They leapt over to Calamity and grabbed his arm gently. Strike sent out a pulse wave of healing beats into his arm, and in less than a minute, his skin was totally back to normal. Calamity signed thank you to Strike, but they both knew Soundstrike should have helped sooner. A moment later, Swipe came over the comms again. "Zeff and Strike, any chance you can hold off Crash and Burn on your own?"
If we need to, maybe. Why?
Through the comms, there was a vicious roar. "We could definitely use Calamity's help right now." Calamity sprinted as fast as he could to Swipe's location. She'd circled back to the cage room, and so had the escaped beastie. Calamity stormed into the room to see Jumpkick and Swipe barely holding their own against a 15-foot-tall, raptor-like beast with a double-hinged jaw and 8 long tails. Swipe was holding back blows from the flailing tails, but her powers didn't seem to be doing much damage. With swings of her fists and feet, she could leave glowing streaks in the air that could stun or impact weaker foes, but this thing was barely deterred by them. Jump was protecting herself, but her martial arts weren't much against the beast. Calamity charged in, but before reaching the beast, a tail swept under him and slammed him to the ground. Another grabbed his leg and hurled him across the room into a wall. When he got up, the creature had Jumpkick wrapped in its tail. It slammed her against another cage. Swipe was fighting and calling on Zeff for help. "Zeff, we really need you here to open the portal soon. I don't know if we can take this thing much longer."
We're trying, but Crash and Burn aren't going down easy.
"I understand, but please try to The creature suddenly snatched up Swipe by the neck. Calamity's heart pounded. He leapt over to a desk near him, touched it, activated his repulsion powers, and it fired across the room, slamming into the creature. It clearly hurt, but not enough. The creature was still holding Calamity's teammates, and Swipe was starting to go red. The beast charged at Calamity, carrying the other two. As it ran, Calamity noticed its torn open cage in the background. The bars were jagged and bent out like spikes. With a good repulsion blast, he could impale the creature, but their mission was to return the creatures home, not kill them. Though if he didn't, it could kill Swipe and Kick. He was near paralyzed by the decision as the creature was on him. He leapt up and gave it a clean strike to the jaw, but even a hard hit like that did nothing to loosen its grip. He clearly had to make the choice. and he saw Swipe's eyes were fluttering shut as her face was going from red to purple. Calamity, totally unsure of himself, made his move. He grabbed a tail and yanked the creature towards him. He slammed a palm into its chest and fired the beast backwards. It let out a vicious squeal as it hurled across the room and impaled on the bars. Swipe and Jump Kick both fell from its grasp, and Calamity ran over and knelt next to Swipe. She hoarsely panted for gasps of air. Calamity, in a panic, signed that he was sorry and he didn't know if he'd made the right choice. But Swipe stopped him. Sometimes there's no right or wrong choice, Calamity. A hard choice is a hard choice for a reason, but you saved us, and we're grateful for that. Soon after, Zeff and Strike rejoined the group, having detained Crash and Burn. They were beginning to plan their next move when Soundstrike spoke up to everyone. Can I say something? Strike spoke more meekly than usual. The team all listened in curiously. Look, I'm sorry. I know this was all a mess because of me. They looked at Zeff. I know I can be a better teammate than this, and I'll try to work on that. While some were still frustrated, they all did genuinely appreciate the apology, and they all agreed to take 10 minutes to marvel at the incredible otherworldly creatures in the cage around them. Soundstrike was fascinated by them all. Soon after, Zeff fired up the portal and they sent all the creatures home. Dr. Universe hadn't been around to fess up for her lies, and the team would surely face her wrath at a later date. But for the time being, they'd returned the creatures and crippled her facility. At least for now, they'd won the day, and hopefully become a stronger team in the process. And so that concludes the first ever PopCross community created superhero team, the SCI-5. I may end up bringing these characters back again for future episodes, and if I do, I will make sure to credit the co-creators, AJ Hachick, who designed Calamity, KieranandCos, who designed Soundstrike, Scarlet Spider, who designed Jump Kick, Camille Creations, who designed Zeff, and Luc Homan, who designed Swipe. You all did such awesome work, loved the designs, and had a lot of fun redrawing them. But now, of course, I'm sure there's lots of people wondering, hey, what did those 5 creatures look like that were hidden away in those cages that we never ended up getting to see? Well, that's actually something you're all gonna get to decide for next month's Community Redraw episode. See, like with this episode, in the description of this video, there's a Google document with descriptions of 5 different creatures. If you want to participate in next month's redraw, you get to pick one of those creature descriptions and design what you think that creature should look like based on the description. Then, I'll take my favorite design for each creature and redraw them in my style while telling a story about the narrator for all my PopCross Studios Dragons videos. All 5 of those creatures are going to feature in that story, and maybe some other Multiverse Tales characters as well. We'll see what happens. I haven't written the story yet, but I have some ideas. As always, links for submitting are in the description below. You can send to popcrossanimations@gmail.com or submit to the Characters for Pop channel in the Discord. And in the document and up on screen, I'll put a deadline. It might be a little bit shorter deadline than usual because I need time to write the story. I really ended up having to rush the story for this one. But anyway, everybody, that's all for today. I'm Christian Pearson. This has been PopCross Studios, home of the nerdiest art videos on YouTube. Thanks again so much to everyone who participated this month. I can't wait to see what you all have in store for next month's video. And even if you weren't picked, I hope you enjoyed this episode and tale and the designs. Anyway, everybody, I'll see you all on Monday. Goodbye.